Thanks for coming. I am Ed Fogarty. I'm a senior vice president here at Paramount Advertising, and I handle the Holdco Omnicom Media Group, which PepsiCo Frito-Lay is a part of. So if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Happy to be here, guys. Drew Ingram. I'm working on the Frito-Lay side. So PepsiCo, as you know, has foods and beverage divisions. So I'm fortunate enough to work with a lot of cool brands and great partners like Paramount to bring all our campaigns to life. And it's always fun. Always keeps you on your toes. We're knee deep in culture, and Paramount kind of helps us navigate where those moments are. And so just excited to be here and chat with you.
Yeah, and Frito-Lay is always there to capture them. So it's been a great partnership for decades. So
Yes.
Thank you for that. So a quick beach ball question to kind of like lighten the mood.
Okay.
So music is in both of our company's DNA. What is hot on your playlist right now?
Oh, wow. I mean, so if you think about it, you don't realize how big the global presence is, especially Latin music. I know everyone's pumped about Bad Bunny being there, but we are acting as one Pep Media right now. What that means is we need to be scaling efforts and thinking globally, not just locally. And so a lot of those insights are being fed to us from our LATAM markets, Europe. Like, what are those trends? We were just talking about Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Truly global icons in the space. But also, it's important when you think about the influencers and the rise of influencers. It's something similar with emerging artists. So I think we do a lot of great work. Some of our partners like Billboard help us out in those spaces, like understanding who those niche emerging artists that have kind of come up on the scene, and help us understand how we work with them early, kind of getting on board. I mean, we did that with Bad Bunny. We're able to identify that talent, but yeah, it's identifying the right talent and people that want to work with you as a brand. It's key. So music is a huge space for us. We've always leaned in there. It's definitely very relevant. It helps your brand drive a lot of meaning, and if you love the artist, then you're gonna love the brand that runs alongside of it. So yeah, I could list a lot of names, but we definitely.
What about you specifically?
Boy, that's tough. I'm old school rock. I know we don't make it anymore.
Nice.
I feel like Foo Fighters used to call it dad rock, so I'm full on dad rock mode. Alternative. But I listen to anything. I mean, I went to school at TCU, so country western was a big thing. Grandfather was raised me on George Strait.
Nice.
But then the wife definitely, she'll get on the dance floor and do the hip hop stuff. So I try to stay,
Okay.
kind of just, I don't know what my role is, but basically just like, okay, we're doing this. But yeah, that's why I lean on my creative agencies, because they know the coolest, latest artists, and they're definitely not in dad rock anymore. So
Yeah.
I kind of have to listen to that.
Right now, mine on repeat, mine is Rise and Fall of the Midwest Princess, Chaperone.
Okay.
It's like she is the moment right now. It's really
Okay.
fascinating to see.
One of those
Okay.
insights.
So let's talk about redefining some demand moments. So
Yeah.
PepsiCo's like Frito-Lay has clearly mastered big cultural stages, from the VMAs to the Super Bowl. I'm curious how you think about translating the same energy into more everyday, contextually relevant moments for your brands.
Yeah, so I was excited to come here today. What has helped us think about our brands in more demand moments is thinking about what is our master brand strategy. So a lot of times for our brands, we've gotten into campaign-specific efforts. So if it's like a new innovation, Flamin' Hot, Dill Pickle, whatever it might be, identifying the campaign efforts there. But let's think broader. A good example of what we used actually was Arm & Hammer. They deliver power to you. They're giving the power to the consumer, but then their portfolio of brands plays underneath that, and then you're leveraging that master brand equity. So if you think about a lot of our brands, we're going back to some of those old school principles. So for Tostitos, you'll start to see quality and traditions become very present. With all the health conscious efforts from consumers, but also regulations. Tostitos is made with like masa. It's a good product, and we just don't promote that enough. So now, if you have that master brand strategy and you're thinking about quality ingredients, traditions, that expands way beyond football. And I think that's what we were known for. We started to pigeonhole our brands just to think about, Tostitos, gather around the good stuff for football. Well, now we're starting to see those demand moments outside of football. If you think about when you're having quality connections or traditions in your family, that's every day. So now we're showing up in more relevant moments throughout the year. and that's not just football. And so from a brand, we have a lot more runway to actually execute our media and show up in those moments and tie it back into who we are as a brand, that we are delivering that quality ingredients. And we do have traditions of making handmade masa. What are your traditions? I mean, it could be earned. Like, there's so many different branches that you can start to scale off of. And now your comm strategy starts to become really robust. It's not just singular spot and dot and we get out. And now we're starting to see those contextual messages throughout the year. And if you think about an evergreen approach to your media, a lot of people are like, well, am I going to have wear out? Is my message been, market too long? Am I going to have the same message? By defining those different demand moments, that's when you can start to execute in different time places, and it keeps things fresh.
Right, and we've talked about it in like meetings that we've had, and I see Mary Kate's right there from our insights team. But about where does the football viewer go after? Because it's like not people don't just stop eating Tostitos. So where are those people in entertainment culture after the sports season ends? So, and then also you were talking about health conscious and stuff. I think single-handedly, I keep selling out the local grocery store of the Simply brand.
Yep.
Because it's fantastic. I mean, from Tostitos to Cheetos to Doritos, like really the brands just gives it another life beyond the regular brand, the bag that's there. So thank you for doing that for me so I can enjoy them again. So,
well, yes, and we'll have some exciting launches next year too. You'll see some of our Naked brand come out, which is pretty funny. There's a lot of puns there to be had. So we try to not take ourselves too seriously. We always say, we're not curing cancer, we're selling chips. So it's like just, provide some levity, especially in today's age where the consumer is not looking for anything serious. We don't want to be aligned with news or anything that's, negative. Like we're a fun brand. We need to get back to some of those efforts that we have. And so those consumer moments, we can provide that levity for them. And so, to your point of after the football game, what are those moments where we can provide some levity or show up in those ways? And I'm proud that we've started to work closely with our PR team. With doing more with less. I think PR and earned is not really tapped into as much. So how are you thinking about those moments, and then it's actually scaling them out, not just in terms of like the message, but the reach. So how are you getting that organic views? Like how are you starting to get some of those conversations happening on Reddit or whatever it might be? Because you're not taking yourself too serious or whatever it might be, but thinking through those situations, the opportunity is actually bigger if you kind of scratch a little bit more for those demand moments. You can really scale them out.
Well, talk about the conversation. So last year, not this past VMAs, but last year, Chippy was all the rage.
There you go.
I mean, it was in the pages of Vogue, and that was just like, he works at Frito, doesn't he?
Garrett, and he sits right next to me. As younger kid in the company, and it just took off. But
and we threw him on the red carpet, and there you go. He was everywhere. So
for those who don't know, basically it's just a guy in a chip costume.
Literally.
But you always try to break through the VMAs. You have the most loud, bold celebrity talents. There's fireworks everywhere. I mean, the production you guys do is second to none. So how do you break through in that noise? And sometimes it's just a guy on a red carpet wearing a chip costume. It's like, who is that? And now he's like hanging out with Taylor Swift and stuff. You're just like, Garrett, Garrett that sits down in cubicle like A over there, and they're like, yeah, he's on the red carpet. And so again, those are the things you can scratch at and kind of uncover like what else could be there. And again, thank you for the partnership on that, because we collaborated with you and some of our content collective partners to think, how do we make this kind of a 2.0? Like we've seeded Chippy as part of this, but he's like literally becoming Chester Cheetah almost. As a distinctive brand asset. And so people are starting the conversation even before the event happens. Like, who is that guy? Why is he wearing a chip? As Doritos is part of it, and you're creating that red thread throughout the camp. That moment. It's not just the in-show, buy some Doritos. It's literally before, during, and after the event. And it's just, it's really cool to see all that stuff come to life.
Yeah, at this year's event, at the night before party, people were like, "Where's Chippy? Where is Chippy?" And he's like, "Oh, he's right there." And it's like, "Oh, he's just a regular guy."
Yeah.
So it was, and you know what? If you had planned it, it probably wouldn't have taken off the way it was. Yeah. It was completely and totally and utterly organic.
Yes.
So,
and because you're not taking yourself too serious.
Exactly.
It's leaning into those moments. I think as an organization, we were talking about this earlier, having that appetite to fail, but just let's see what happens. Totally. And we're such a big company that a lot of times we don't. And I think it's some of the smaller companies that are starting to inch at us in terms of like market share. They've been more emboldened to take those risks. They don't have the opportunity cost of like doing something else, or they don't have the financial risks. And the shareholders that are
Right,
saying,
exactly.
drive the money, they can go ahead and lean into those moments. And I think consumers see that, and it's great. And so how, as a brand, do we take ourselves not only on serious, but think more like as a startup and just lean into those moments? That's how we developed our brand to begin with. So why are we kind of going away from it? Like,
For sure.
stay consistent for who we are.
And you also, I mean, you know how to lean into culture-defining moments. I mean, with Fritos and Yellowstone.
Yes.
You were there from basically the beginning of it all. So, and then that also defined cowboy culture within your organization with regard to the Fritos brand. So sometimes you don't know if it's going to take off, but you're always one step ahead, it feels. And I think that also relates back to the partnership and the insights that, let's say, our two teams, the Paramount team and the Fritos team, provide to each other. So
yeah, we weren't even thinking about Yellowstone. And when you think of a lot of today's music, going back to music, country, it's getting bigger. Morgan Wallen, like there's a lot of like stars that are kind of bridging that gap into like rock and rap. But a lot of the team was like, Fritos country, is that old? Is this outdated? Like Garth Brooks, is this kind of like back in the day, or mine, George Strait. And so the cowboy culture, how do you make that relevant? Like, how do you like make it like fun and exciting, but also modern? And so, yeah, that was a great partnership. We worked with, Taylor Sheridan team and thought about, again, that moment. If you think about those pre and post shows that we had, where people were sitting around talking about the show, fanning that flame. So Fritos just organically became part of that. And the brand's sales were through the roof. I think people started seeing that, and it was like, this is kind of cool. And also it gets us into another runway of recipes. So I know Ramon, our CEO, is really big into, speaking of not demand moments for our comms, but eating occasions. We can't just be a snack anymore that you have at 3 p.m. because maybe you've had a high protein lunch and now you're not even hungry. So how are we starting to integrate with foods and dinner and meals? And obviously Fritos has been the gold standard there. But people think about it as chili pie, something like old school, like that's what my mom and my grandparents used to make. So we did some like walking tacos and had some like more. We did something with Thomas Rhett as well. So you're starting to find like opportunities and talent and shows where you can show up in a more modern and kind of hip way to revitalize the brand. And then when you have kind of some of the new flavors, the honey twist that we have, so it's kind of like your parents' Fritos but elevated.
So you have an experimental kitchen in Plano. You have a kitchen in Plano?
Oh yes. Yes, it's the coolest job in the world. When we get hired, they have like 10 different Lay's chips, and you have to guess which one. It's like lightly salted, baked, original, 5% salt, and it's just like 10 different iterations.
Really?
And they're off by like this much. But that's how crazy they are when they're developing these flavor profiles. And they just have fun in that kitchen all day. They're just toying around, and they bring them up to us, and they're like, hey, try this. I'm like, okay. So it's definitely a perk of the job, but yeah, it's a massive R&D facility down there. It's top secret. It's, kind of cloak and dagger back there. There's like a special pass I can get back in there. So I'm like looking back, I'm like, okay, that looks like the new flavor. But yeah, constantly developing that. And then my job is how do I bring that to life and make that flavor enticing and fun. Yeah. And it's a consumption occasion, enjoying the snack. I mean, it's supposed to be, we call it fun for you for a reason. Like, enjoy the moment. You see that coming through with Cheetos, Cheetle, I remember Jeff Bezos posted, he's like, my favorite part of eating the Cheetos was he had it on his hands and he was going to lick it. So like lean into those moments, own what the product attributes that you have. And then relay them back to the consumer, because then it becomes like a conversation with your friend. Like, we get it. We love the fact that you love our Cheetle. We love it too. It's it's just great to lean into those connections and to make sure that the consumer sees us just as a human being and not a brand.
And then it's about the consumer experience. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Consumers are everywhere, from food culture, which we've been talking about, to gaming, to lifestyle. So it feels like your brands have really leaned into that diversity. Can you talk about how Frito is showing up in more unexpected but authentic spaces? Like, maybe share a recent example of what felt bold.
Sure. And I don't know if I want to liberally say the creative agency, but we got a new creative agency that's really pushed us to think differently. And one of the campaigns that we just won the Cannes Award for was The Other Hand. So I just talked about Cheetle. And it's kind of connecting all what we've been talking about, which is owning the fact that you can't do everything with just one hand. So that gives you a lot of creative flexibility of where I show up. So we did a lot of billboards out of home where, the sign was like off. We were able to crack the sphere. So we did that in Las Vegas. So we thought, what if the designers and the tech people that are actually creating the sphere when you're in Las Vegas and it was broken? So now you're thinking of earned moments. People are like, wait a minute, the sphere is broken. Looks like it's cracking in half. And so people were calling in and like saying, what's going on in the sphere? It's like, it's seriously broken. But it was intentional. I mean, because the designer had Cheetos on his one hand, so he was doing everything with his non-dominant hand. And it showed up in surgeries with the doctors, botching operations because they were one hand. So that was very successful because we found that distinctive asset, but we could show up in different ways where the other hand was not actually delivering what the technician or the chef or the doctor was supposed to be doing. So that was a very successful. And then a couple others that more recently, Golden Sriracha. I don't know if you guys have seen some of that advertising, but it's pretty bold. It's hot and spicy, but not too spicy. So we worked with Walter Goggins to bring that to life, and it was basically the plumber that knocks on the door, and you think the scene's going to turn a little bit racy into rated R land, and no, he's just a plumber. He's just there to like whatever. But it was perfect because it ties into the heat. It's hot, it's spicy, but it's not too spicy.
Right.
And so that was a great campaign. But then we thought, well, how do we make that something different? Everyone has kind of a racy campaign. That's not really that innovative. So we had that great idea to actually work with Maxim magazine. I don't know if it's been a minute since Maxim magazine was in households, or if magazines are even households anymore. But that idea was seeded, and everyone's like, what? But it was brilliant if you think about it, because that's the type of content, that's more relevant to that creative that we were delivering. And so we've gotten a lot of PR and a lot of earned coming out of that, because we're starting to lean into those non-traditional environments and bringing them back. So out of home, print, QR codes, there's a lot of fun. I mean, we're doing pause ads with you guys. Like, it's so simple sometimes, but it's just think about the consumer, think about the creative, and go ahead and lean into it, and it's really worked out.
Yeah. I mean, there are actually probably some people in this room that don't know what Maxim is.
I'm definitely dating myself with all these references.
But that's funny. Okay, so let's shift from like to recall and meaning now for a quick. So let's go to the shift from pure awareness to deeper measure. It's like salience, distinction, and meaning. How are you using that framework to redefine success for your brands and shape what you want consumers to truly remember?
Yeah. So I think all of us in the room, you're charged with your sales, driving brand health and equity. So we started to dimensionalize brand health. What does that mean? And a lot of our partners that would give us back their brand lift reports, it's basically like ad recall. It's super basic. Did you remember it? Was it aided? Was it unaided? Okay. Let's dive deeper. Let's think about what this brand is actually standing for and start to ask more pointed questions. And it's kind of going back to a little bit of grad school days, business cases of how you grow a brand. So I think people have probably heard or listened to the How Brands Grow. It's fundamental. And so the two ways to actually grow a brand, either salience or meaning. Distinction helps a little bit, but making sure that you're relevant to those moments, to that product and that consumer. So salient. So for Cheetos, that would be football. Doritos, it could be music. And then meaningfulness. So you've seen us relaunch Lay's in a more purposeful and an emotional way. So that's getting back to the meaning. Like, what does it mean to me that Lay's is made with real ingredients? And if I'm feeding this to my children, I want some quality food in my household. So you're starting to now stack up moments where you're salient, you're meaningful to the consumer, and then the overlay of the distinctiveness probably is more of a flavor tail. So if I'm Lay's, I can then launch dill pickle. So now I'm kind of hitting on all three of those, and now my campaign's a lot more successful because I'm deepening those meanings, deepening those connections. And on the back end, what we hope over time is that brand growth, that brand health metric will rise, and that will ultimately lead to sales, which obviously is our goal. So it's been a really great kind of exercise, and we actually launched this program internally. So everyone had to do the training, how to grow your brand, and understanding where you are in the life cycle the brand's growth stage. If you're on the infancy stage, if you're trying to gain share, or if you're trying to defend share, there's a lot of things to unpack there. And so I would encourage everyone to like work with your partners to think through more of those opportunities to get more of that feedback loop from your consumers to understand, am I really, resonating with them truly? Like asking like more pointed questions. And then we have like a health scorecard. Literally it's green, yellow, and red. It's very simple, but really simple. It tells you like how the brand health is and how it's evolving over time. And hopefully you see those yellows turn to green by continuing on that message and keeping that message consistent. I think everyone's seen the Little Farmer ad a lot, yeah, exactly. But that's intentional. That's supposed to be really reinforcing what that meaning is to that brand.
Yeah. So talking about connections, the VMAs and Doritos have been partners for a long time now. And you made a big statement this year in the VMAs, as you do every year. So, because every year it feels culturally right whenever we start to ideate, it feels like we're always going in the right direction. So how did the partnership fit into your broader brand strategy? And what do you think made it resonate so strongly, other than the fireworks and the great talent that we had?
Yes, absolutely. We talked about the earned piece, which was key. But we use tentpoles as our launch moments. And so a lot of times we're going to refresh either creative or the brand's comm strategy. Mm-hmm. We look for these moments in culture that we know where the eyeballs are going to be. And so that's our launch moment. So for Doritos, we had some soft sales on core, nacho cheese, and Doritos Cool Ranch. So we just said, hey, that's going to be where we really lean in, make sure that people are still aware of those products. You don't want to deviate away from kind of what got you there. Yep. And so for us, it's don't mess up the play. It's VMAs, it's music, it's nacho cheese. It's going to be successful. But for that, for us, it's seeding that message again and deepening that meaning to the consumer in those moments, and not just being completely almost too culturally integrated, and not like, again, it's back to that meaning. Like, what does the brand mean to you? And so I think a lot of our creative outside of just our paid advertisements with you guys was starting to see that, the brand has meaning beyond just eating the chip. It's really showing up in a more meaningful way. And then that's our launch moment. And now we're starting to, relaunch more of our creative in the back half of the year. So yeah, I would just say that don't do the boom splats. Don't have those launch moments and then not be able to continue on. So we thought it through with you guys to make sure that, this was going to be a 6-month kind of plan and not just a, 2-week plan.
For sure. And then we have a few seconds. So just a quick look ahead. So as CTV and platforms like Paramount Plus continue to grow, how do you see the future of contextual brand integration evolving to drive both cultural resonance and measurable business impacts?
Yep, it's a loaded question.
It's a loaded question.
We're not going to answer it in 2 seconds.
37 seconds.
But yeah, in the CTV space, that's where obviously the eyeballs are going. I would kind of push it back to you guys. I mean, you guys are great partners in that space to understand where our consumers are and what shows they're watching. So it can be some insightful things that we don't even know, like where those consumers are going after the game, or if they are watching certain shows, what demographics you're watching on your platform. But I come from the performance side, the media, so the audience and data piece and the targeting is key. Finding out the right signals so we know what audiences are there. And also working with measurement partners to kind of scrape away the black box. So we've worked a lot with iSpot in the space of like connecting linear, connected TV down to social. Same thing with other measurement partners where we can actually start to understand like where are those touch points, like where are they going to show up, and how many times do we need to be on, in connected TV spaces. And then the last thing I would say is make sure that you have another partner that can see all this in the kind of like one view. So we're working with you guys in the programmatic and PMP space so that if I am delivering the media, I can at least learn something from it. Sure. I need to know what's happening with my audience. So I can take my best guess at my audience, saying I think these people are going to be on these connected TV screens. It's in an ad environment, or I could be relevant. That's great. But if I don't know that entire consumer journey, or who exactly is watching and absorbing that, then I don't know. And so without that data, I have nothing to tell the organization. So we're leaning more into more of our programmatic partners and our PMP inventory to find those opportunities, because you don't really know. And I know AI is a big thing, but we're also leveraging AI for more of the predictability. Everything that we've done is historical, so it's cohorts that we have in-house, but that's just who we thought. about a propensity-based audience. So literally we have predictive analytics now where we can predict those consumers that might show up on the connected TV space and over-index in watching those shows, the great shows that you guys have at Paramount.
Cool. Well, this was great. That 20 minutes flew. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, man.